about the economy? Do you think, is the economy on the road to recovery? Where are we?
You know, you read some reports, and consumer confidence is down, employers' confidence is down. They're not excited about the immediate prospects of job growth. People are still feeling insecure about their jobs. I hear it going door to door, and it's interesting, you don't see a lot of work being done on homes out there. Whereas in the past, campaigning and the at-large campaigns here in Quincy, you maybe hit certain pockets of the city where there'd be people putting on porches, additions, dormers, things like that. You don't see a lot of that going on now. You used to see some pools going in. You don't see that going on. In fact, you see a lot of pools that aren't even being used this summer, and I'm sure that that's related to the water cost. So you see that at the local level. People are definitely concerned. You see the reports about consumer confidence and employer confidence, and you think maybe things aren't going well. The stock market has been somewhat volatile lately. It's up and down. It turns, it seems, on pretty much each report that comes out. But I think, you know, things have I think, stabilized to some degree. There is concern about a secondary recession, but I think things have stabilized. And it leads to the idea that as things turn, and I think they will, we've got to make sure that we manage a recovery. We can't immediately, once revenues start to increase because people are back to work, we cannot immediately start spending money and just throwing it back out there saying we have it, let's spend it. I think we have to take a very careful, measured approach to what we do with new revenue coming in and make sure that we anticipate that something like this could happen again. It wasn't all that long between the cycles this time around. Right. I mean, we had this cycle started in 2008. If you remember, the stock market had some volatility back in 2001. The 1990s, there was some pretty big dips in the economy. So it's not these extended periods of well-being. And you know, we've got to anticipate that's going to happen again. So I think that things are moving, but I think we've got to get people back to work.
How do we do that? How does Massachusetts get people back to work?
Well, we're very fortunate here. We have some great basics within our economy. We have obviously a very substantial healthcare industry here in Massachusetts. We have you know, a life sciences industry here in Massachusetts. We have trades here in Massachusetts, well-trained employees. We have the colleges and the universities spread all over the Commonwealth that contribute to the economy. So we're very fortunate that we have a lot of that present. We have a financial services industry that, you know, depending what reports you read, is second to New York, in particular in certain sectors of the financial services. So we're very fortunate that we have all of that. How do we get people working back in those industries? I think we have the ability to take the lead in green technologies. I don't think we've capitalized on that as of yet. We're turning out engineers from our state schools and our private colleges and universities that are some of the best in the country, if not some of the best in the world. And we should do whatever we can to keep them here, and with the idea that they will work in the green technology field. We talked about financial services. Well, if you want to advance in green technologies or new technologies, you have to have the money. And we're fortunate to have a financial services industry here. A lot of hedge funds are based here in Massachusetts or just south of us in Connecticut, and they are a source of funds. A lot of private equity firms are based here in Massachusetts and in Boston area particularly. They're looking right now to invest money. You look across institutions, colleges with endowments, unions with their pension funds, public pension funds. There is a lot of money out there, given what's happened in the stock market, as crazy as it seems. There's a lot of money out there waiting to be invested. And there's a little bit of hesitancy as they kind of reallocate resources to invest it, but it's there. And so I think we have to make sure that we can tap it. One of the things that did pass at the state just recently was they allowed, it's called net operating loss, that if a company has a loss before they were able to carry it in they had to carry it in the books for 5 years, I'm sorry. They've extended that. So basically it's almost like decreasing what you're reporting as a loss, decreasing a mortgage and extending it a little further, but not in the exact same sense, but it's kind of the general idea. And that will be good for the financial services industry as they're looking to invest money. It'll be good for startup companies that traditionally lose money in the first few years before they get established, before they go public, for instance. So that will have, I think, a positive effect. So I think if we focus on green technologies, put our engineers to work, that starts expanding. They're going to need research facilities that'll put our tradespeople to work. You know, as that starts to generate employment, then you become a bit of a business hub for technologies, whether it be green technologies, life sciences, or whatever it may be. That generates some of the service industry. You have more conferences coming here. You have more business travel. That helps with tourism because families then come along as well. It just has a kind of a snowballing effect. And I think we have the ability to do that. I really do.
Great. Now, what about, things happen specifically in Quincy through your work in the council that you're aware of in terms of just some of the examples you just gave?
Yes, we've been fortunate. We had a building down in North Quincy, which used to be the Blue Cross Blue Shield building. It's at 100 Hancock Street, down by Cathay Pacific, across from Dunkin' Donuts. The building sat empty for a long time once Blue Cross Blue Shield moved out of there. It was bought by a firm that actually used pension funds as part of its investment pool. And they came before the city council and asked for what they call a tax incremental financing agreement. They wanted to invest in the property. They wanted to make it LEED certified. And they received the LEED certification. We gave them a tax incentive financing agreement. And what that is if the building's worth a certain amount of money now and is paying taxes at a certain amount, that as the value of the building grows with the improvements and with new tenants moving in, that they will get a tax break on a portion of that growth. They never pay less than what they started paying. In fact, they continue to pay more. It's just that they don't pay it at as sharp a rate as they otherwise would. So it's an incentive for them to invest, and it also is a pass-through to prospective tenants. So we passed that. It's a $16 million LEED certified project, and it's now at the point where there's going to be about 800 workers in that building that weren't there before. There will be a state agency in there. There's a financial services industry, which we just talked about, that will be doing some backroom operations. And there's also a computer services company that's in there. So by the simple act of the city council and the mayor's office offering this incentive or agreeing to this incentive, that vacant building, which was costing the city, because when it's vacant they apply for abatements, is now generating tax revenue for the city. People are there. They'll be over at the stores. Anecdotally, I was at Dunkin' Donuts the other morning greeting voters, and the foot traffic coming over from that building was amazing. I'm sure the owner of Dunkin' Donuts is thrilled that the tax incentive passed, and I'm sure Cathay Pacific is, and some of the businesses up in North Quincy. People are working there, they get out, and they go to the local businesses. So we did that. We also looked at the Boston Scientific property. They came before the city council. They were in a situation where they were looking to make greater use of the old Jordan Marsh warehouse where they've been located out in Squantum in the Marina Point section. And they were looking to invest a lot of money, but to do it competitively, they needed a little bit of assistance. And we did the same thing there. We offered a tax incremental financing agreement. They were pleased with the agreement. They're going to invest the money down there. It's a $55 million investment to expand that facility. And same thing, that means the property value goes up and we will grab more tax revenue from that property. And it also means jobs. A lot of people in Quincy work at Boston Scientific, and we talked about new industries. That's a medical device industry. It's worldwide, and it's a big part of its operation is here in Quincy. We're able to keep them here in Quincy because of some creative incentives. We also were able to get a company down the Fall River shipyard, Bluefin Technologies, which is a cutting-edge, emerging technology, and I loved it because we stole it from Cambridge. They were over in Cambridge, which has a reputation for being kind of a birthing place for these new technologies, and they came to Quincy, which is a great sign. Not great for the region because it's just a transfer of jobs in some ways, but great for Quincy. We offered them the incentive. They're down at Fall River. They're generating jobs. They're generating tax revenue on a parcel that was underutilized. They're excited that they are near the water, and that's another resource that we have here in Massachusetts. We have ports, and whatever products that we can build here, whether it's in green technologies or other technologies, we have the ability to ship them all over the world right from our back door, basically. So those are three, I wouldn't call them smaller ones, but three company or site-specific incentives. And then big ones in downtown.
And those, just for instance, Bluefin though, that's not just jobs for Quincy, that's probably for the whole South Shore, right? Especially down there, that's almost right on the border with Braintree and...
It is, and Braintree's thrilled to have them. The Fall River Basin is shared between Quincy and Braintree, and in particular the East Braintree Civic Association is a very active group, and they're very much concerned about the uses within the shipyard and the basin in particular, and they're thrilled that there's a company like that. And it is a draw. When you look at what occurs in Quincy, whether it's Boston Scientific, State Street, you look at what's going on at the shipyard, we'll talk a little bit about downtown, that's a draw, and it provides jobs for people from Abington and Holbrook and Rockland and all over the South Shore. I remember in Boston on Storrow Drive they used to have the property, if you lived here now, you'd be home, you'd be sitting in traffic and you'd see that sign. Well, I worked, when I was practicing law, I worked on Quincy Shore Drive, and the building I worked in was built where it was on Quincy Shore Drive right before the Neponset Bridge because somebody from the South Shore had a pet supply business in Boston, and every day hit the wall traffic-wise right at that spot. And he looked over one day and said, I'm going to build an office here. It's 122 Quincy Shore Drive, which is a very nice office building. And I view Quincy Center, downtown Quincy, as the same thing. If you're coming up the expressway or Route 3A, you can sit in the traffic and go to Boston, or you can go off and come into what will be a great commercial and residential area.
And can you tell us a little bit more about that development?
Sure. When I first ran for city council back in 2001, one of the things that I ran on was kind of to take the politics out of all the permitting that went on. There was so much that went on, and I thought we should try to streamline the zoning processes in the city. To build in downtown Quincy or to redevelop in downtown Quincy, you would have to go before the zoning board, the conservation commission, the historical commission, the planning board. You would have to make sure that you get your licenses through the license board for whatever you wanted to do. So it was a very long, involved regulatory process. So as a city council, what we did, we were able to rezone the entire downtown, come up with some design guidelines, and also put in place the designation of the entire area as a TIF district, which would qualify anybody who wants to build down there for a tax incentive at the state level, not at the local level, but the state level. We designated it a district improvement financing area, meaning that any additional tax revenue generated down there, some of it will go back for infrastructure use. So the groundwork was laid for development. And then this company, Streetworks, came to the city. They were affiliated with Stop and Shop. They had done work with them. And they did an evaluation of the downtown for Stop and Shop, and were excited by what they saw. And as a result of that, they partnered with Stop and Shop, and they purchased the Grand Trust building. And we were more excited at that point, and just with a great vision have now laid out basically what the future of Quincy Center will be. They are working extremely hard. They have spent an awful lot of money. They have a lot of property either under control or options on the property. I have heard from property owners who have had agreements with Streetworks that they are being treated very well. And right now, the mayor's office and his team of experts is negotiating with Streetworks on what they call a land disposition agreement, that the parking lots that we own will be granted or given to the developer under an agreement that will provide for construction, infrastructure, and all of that. And right now, from what I understand, most of that cost will be borne by the developer. And then as things progress and there's revenue streams being generated, then it will revert back to the city, and the revenue streams will help us with any bonding that we have to do. So it's really moving quickly. We're talking about thousands of construction jobs. We're talking about residential units in the downtown, commercial space, retail space. And this is a national company. They've got a reputation for drawing people to their developments. They had a very successful one down in West Hartford.
That sounds great.